Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on the video. This is David Pendleton again, and today I'm going to give you one of the best pro walkthroughs that I've ever made on the Vineyard Acres 9-hole mini cup. So again, this is going to be a pro walkthrough. We pretty much have every single shot and every single hole figured out already on day one, which is awesome. You know, I took 3 accounts into pro this time, so I was able to really have a lot of things dialed in by the time my last round came across. So the best I've shot today so far is a -15, and that's without eagling hole number 9 yet. But we're super close, and I got a really good idea on hole number 9 for the eagle, so stay tuned for that. If you find this helpful, please subscribe, everybody. That really helps me out, and it's much appreciated. But, you know, what you're going to get out of this, you're going to get a very detailed, slow explanation. We'll pause the screen a couple times. I'll show you what I'm looking at. I'll show you how I'm lining up. And the biggest thing you don't have to worry about is if you and I have the same clubs, okay? I know a lot of people worry about that. Don't worry about that. Just pay attention to the landmarks I'm using and then translate that into your own game. Now, during your game, if you don't have the same clubs as me, if you take notes, it'll help you as each time you progress in each stage of the tournament. So qualifying, opening, and then weekend round. And that'll make your game a lot better too. And I'll kind of go through here and show you what I take notes on and how I do this. But again, please subscribe if you find it helpful. We're going to hop right into it right now. So hole number 1. Now, hole number 1, if you're going to win the tournament, which that's always the goal, is to win, we're going to have to eagle this hole. So the nice part is you're going to be able to drive this ball to the green or close to green as long as you follow this path here. If you have a Kingmaker, use a Kingmaker. You can also do it with a Titan as well. That's going to be no problem. I was able to do it with both balls. But the reason that I want to use a Kingmaker is because you need a lot of side spin to the right, and the Kingmaker is going to give you better side spin than a Titan. But this one is pretty easy. We're going to play this drive 20% elevation, and we're going to do 5 top spin. 5 top spin is a good number, because if you use 5 top, you're not going to give yourself much room of a chance of rolling past the green at the top. So the worst thing we could do is actually overshoot this hole, and it can be done because I did it today. So 5 top spin, and then as much right side spin as possible. From there, we're going to do a 20% adjustment, but then we're pushing our target back into max, and then we're taking our shot with full right curl. So let's show you that real quick. So there's our 5 top spin and as much right spin as possible. You can see our ball guideline there is going up the hill, which is really nice. You know, that's what we're looking for. We're getting just a slight crosswind, but so I will still move my target 20%, and then I'll push right back up to max again. But again here, you don't need a lot of overpower either. So we're going with just a little bit of overpower, and we're doing a little bit right curl. So actually full right curl, not a little bit. And you can see there we hit a great shot, and we're still good, no problem. Okay, so that's a Kingmaker. And, you know, this was one of the first accounts that I played, so I tried it with a Titan. But again here, you know, you're seeing the top spin, you're seeing the side spin. Push it back up to max, a little bit of overpower, and then full right curl. Now this is full right curl with an extra mile 8. You know, you can do the same thing with the 7. You know, obviously if you have an APOC, you can get better right curl on it, but just be careful not to go too much, because you don't want to, you know, hit that rough there on the right hand side. But either way, guys, that's hole number 1. That's a super simple way to play it and pick up an eagle, and you got to eagle that hole in order to win this tournament. All right. Now we're going to talk about hole number 2. Hole number 2, you're going to see not a lot of hole-in-ones on, but I am very close. And this right here, I saved this replay because this was my best attempt at it. Now, if you're used to playing Tour 8 and you get to the shootout, you normally play this hole at 20% elevation, okay? But I've had to change it to 25% just because I was missing to the right. And as I added more elevation, I was getting much closer to the hole from, shot number 1 to shot number 2 to shot number 3. But here's the one thing that's going to be consistent no matter what the wind is. We're going to play this at 4 bars of backspin, all right? And then we're going to find our landing position. So let's show you that right now. Now you just saw that I went 4.2 bars of backspin. I said 4 because I came up a little bit short of the hole. Not much, but just a little bit. So we're going to change it to 4 bars of backspin. And then I'm finding my landing position. So I'm putting my orange ring down here, around here by the rough line. Now, ultimately, this is where I shoot. So orange ring on the rough, and then my ball guideline. You see this up here? I left it on the dark green square, but right there at the corner, like where the dark green meets the light green. So if you look at the square seams, that's how I start to dial in a shot. So you see I'm about 1 full green square left of the pin, and I'm short of the pin. That is on purpose because when our ball touches down here, we have a lot of room left to get to the pin. So that 4.6 crosswind and tailwind is going to come back into play, and that's going to push our ball for us. We're playing this one at max distance of the sniper with 25% elevation. Okay, so ultimately, this is going to be a very easy birdie, but we're very close to the hole-in-one. So what would we do to change this? So what I wrote down is if I have 4.6 wind, of course I'm going to use the same 4 backspin. But instead of aiming 1 full green square left of the pin, if I get the same wind, I'm going to change it to half of a green square left of the pin, okay? So then you might be asking, well, what do you do then if I get a 5-mile-per-hour wind on the next shot? Well, then if that's the case, I'm going to line up exactly where I did in this example because we're going to get a stronger push. With a stronger push, we wouldn't have missed half of a green square left of the pin. We would have probably been pushed into the pin, all right? So what happens is if I don't get, a 4.6, what happens if I get a 4.0? Well, then instead of half of a green square, I'll move it into a quarter of a green square. So I'll move it closer to the pin because we're getting less of a push. So, we don't have a lot of time to practice that with this being a mini tournament. But in a regular tournament, that's how I dial in shots. And a lot of people ask, so how in the finals, if you weren't close on the qualifying round and the opening round, how do I so many times get the hole-in-ones and the extra albatrosses in the finals? Well, that's how. So it's by taking notes and using the green squares on the green as a reference point and then just adjust from there based off wind. All right. So hole number 3. Now, here's what we need to know about hole number 3. Hole number 3 is a really, really good chance for an albatross. And I was able to get it 2 times today out of the 3 accounts. On the 3rd account, I hit a great shot, so I didn't expect to make it. So I'm going to show you 2 different albatrosses that I got on this hole, and it was all because of how far or not far the drive went. But here's how we're playing the drive. So for me, I'm putting my yellow ring on the rough line here, and I'm doing full top with 5 right spin. I'm adjusting here 10% elevation. And you can see I'm using full right curl again, all right? So this fairway up here can give you a nasty bounce to the left-hand side. It can shoot you into the rough over there on the left. Now you see we're middle of the fairway here, so we're no problem. We're good. But this one went 376 yards, so that was a good drive. Now, I want you to show you here the Albatross Shot. So you want to have your Goliath because of the top spin. And the ring adjustment, I feel, is easier than any long iron that you can have. But one thing to note is if you're in the same yard range as me, I want you to purposely put your ball guideline still in the hole, but on the left-hand side of the pin, because that's how this green rolls whenever you hit it. I albatross this hole a lot in Tour 8. So to me, it was very easy using a Kingmaker because I'm used to using navigators only on Tour 8. But this is a minimum distance shot. And you can see my ball guideline right there. You see how like I'm still in the cup, but I'm left-hand side of the cup? That's a really good spot to set this shot up at. From there, it's no elevation, a minimum distance Goliath shot. And you see that even though we were left of the cup, we were dead center of the pin, and we dropped that thing in there. Okay? Now, this is a little crazier because the ball shot on me like a cannon on the drive. This one went 402 yards, so I have no idea how or why it did that, but I was forced to take a shot with the thorn, and I couldn't find the rough bump with the thorn, so I went with a max backspin shot with a thorn, which I'm pretty good at. So, you know, I just want to show this just in case you guys smack the piss out of your drive like I did on accident. I didn't mean to do that. This is a good approach. Just max backspin. And, you know, I typically try to leave it like 1.5 green squares beyond the pin. But that's with a thorn 7. So, you know, if you know your thorn levels, you know, that's going to change on how much room you give yourself for the backspin. But for me, I've gotten pretty good at this shot, and I even hit a great shot here and was still able to drop it. So, you know, I just wanted to show you guys that one just in case you hit the ball too far like I did. Okay. So we're going to talk about hole number 4 here. So I am using, obviously, a money ball. I'm using a Win 5 Power 1 ball. Do not use anything more than a Power 1. So even if you're not going to use a Win 5 ball like I am, you can easily take this shot with a navigator. And if you don't want to use a money ball, I would absolutely use a navigator and nothing else. This is probably one of the safest birdies in the entire game. But this is also a very easy hole-in-one. And here is why I'm using a Win 5 ball. Because this hole plays at different elevation numbers depending on the wind. In this tournament, you're going to get winds around 5.3 miles an hour and winds over 5.5 miles an hour. But the thing is, if you get wind over 5.5 miles an hour, I want you to play this at 25% elevation and always dead minimum distance of your sniper. I don't care what anybody tells you. I dominate this hole in tour play, and I'm smoking the hole-in-ones on it during qualifying. But I wanted to keep my wind under 5.5, so I switched to a Win 5 ball, and that allows me to play this 20% elevation at absolutely minimum distance of my sniper, and it's going to be 4.5 bars of backspin, aim into the hole, 20% elevation, and it's going to be a hole-in-one. And I'll show you here a couple different times with a couple different wind strengths. I'm aiming dead center of the cup with my backspin. You know, like I said, around 4.5. That's going to be super accurate every time. You can see here my orange ring is almost around the fringe line. Not a big deal. I'm more focused on the ball guideline on this hole. I'm not focused on a landmark whatsoever. The reason being I'm not focused on a landmark, you know, like, oh, I don't have to have my orange ring at the fringe line, is because I'm not using any side spin. So for me, when I start to use side spin, that's when I look for a lot more landmarks. But I'm not using side spin, all right? So there's one shot with 3.8 mile per hour wind. Here's another one for you. We did get higher wind this time, 4.4. But it's the same thing. It's no problem. It's backspin into the hole. 20% elevation. You know, if you hit the ball perfect, you're going to give yourself a really, really, really good chance at a hole-in-one on this one. You know, but you see these are dead center. If you want to go with the Navigator, guys, you can go with the Navigator. Like I said, that's what I suggest. So I did go ahead and put one shot in here with the Navigator. 5.8 mile per hour wind, which is what I wanted to avoid. So, you know, you see the backspin right here into the hole. You know, but I just wanted to show this one for people who aren't using money balls. And, but, you know, with that being said, don't waste a Katana, a Kingmaker, or a Titan on this hole. A Navigator backspin into the hole. You know, right there, I did not play at 25%. I played at 20, and that's where it bit me. It's got to be 25%. All right, so let's go on to hole number 5. Hole number 5, unfortunately, you know, you're going to see a lot of people get themselves into trouble and probably birdie this hole. You're going to see a lot more birdies on this par 5 than what you would normally see on other par 5s. When this is going to be an easy eagle for us, guys. So here's what we're doing. Let me back this up just a tad. So I'm going to show you my landmark here. Full top spin, 4 left spin, okay? That's how I'm going to play this hole every time, no matter the wind. Full top, 4 left. And what I'm doing is going to be really specific here. Since we're getting a little bit of headwind, okay, that means the wind's blowing at us a little bit, we can't be at max distance of our driver before we adjust rings. We have to pull our target down a little bit towards us. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull this down to the plus 12 yard mark, all right? So again, this is what I write down when I'm taking notes. You see that? I'm at plus 12. And I have my yellow ring right there on the rough line. And then from there, I'm going to adjust 10% elevation. And then I'm just taking a normal shot. Here's what I want to tell everybody on this hole is don't gamble, all right, on the drive. You don't need overpower to make this drive successful. As a matter of fact, if you use too much overpower, if you hit a great shot, you know, this was a great right, so we're going to be okay, great right. But a great left would be deadly. You'd probably go into the rough sand or hit the trees. So I would just fully avoid overpower. I use a little bit of overpower there. I'm not going to do any overpower because now I know that I don't need it. So don't do that on this hole, all right? Just take the easy drive and then move on to shot number 2. Now, you got to have a big dog. So if you're taking notes, write that down. You don't want to take this shot with the sniper. You need a big dog or a cat. I like the big dog over the cat right now because this one, for my account, has more accuracy. But here's what you can see that I'm doing right now is I'm stretching my club up to max. I'm trying to see if I use overpower, am I going to be hitting the fairway and the green? And I was. So I applied 1 bar of backspin just to make sure that when I hit the green or the fairway, the ball doesn't roll 100 miles an hour and put us into the rough. So I used 1 bar of backspin, but you also notice as I was pushing my target up, I was barely getting onto the green or fringe, which means I'm basically going to have to go full overpower to make this shot successful. So we're going to adjust the second shot with no elevation, but then we have to remember a very key point. You have to push your target back into max. So if your ball guideline is looking like mine is, and you're barely getting onto the green or the fringe area, you got to remember to push it back up to max, or you're going to end up in that sand and fall short. You can see here we're almost at full overpower. We hit a perfect ball, which is good. You know, you got to hit perfect. And look at that. We clip the fringe. We roll up. That's really nice. So, you know, just imagine what wouldn't happen if we didn't apply that backspin and we went full overpower. So keep that in mind. You might want to rewind this video and watch that again. You might want to watch me stretching my club up into max. And you can see that by adjusting back up to max distance, our ball with the perfect shot hit exactly where we were landing. So that's really good. But we're going to see a lot of people birdie this hole. So make sure you get your eagle. This is a pretty straightforward hole. We don't need to spend a lot of time on it. All you need is a navigator. Nothing else is really going to help you much. 3 bars of top spin. Max right spin. So that's like, what, 2 1/4 with the navigator. I'm putting my orange ring on the rough line. I'm adjusting 10% elevation. Again, don't overpower this shot. You don't want to go into the rough. But, you're going to end up somewhere down here. This is a good spot to be. You don't have to be all fancy and try to hook the ball onto the other side of the fairway there. Just take this shot. It's a very straightforward second shot. But the only thing you need to know about shot number 2 is this one plays pretty aggressively with the roll. So I want you to use a lot of backspin when you take your shot to pin with no elevation. And I'm playing this one between minimum and mid distance of my sniper. But watch how much backspin I apply here. So we're looking at 6 bars of backspin. And I'm leaving my ball guideline purposely short of the hole because we're getting 7 miles an hour tailwind push. I make my ring adjustment. We hit a perfect ball, which is always a good gauge to figure out what we got to do next time. But even with 6 bars of backspin, I'm dead to pin. So, just know that whenever you take your shot, that one plays pretty strong as far as the roll goes onto the green. Now we're going to go to hole number 7. So let's talk about hole number 7. Again, another money ball. Why am I using 2 money balls in a pro tournament? I don't normally do that. The reason I'm doing it is because this is a 9-hole cup. So we need as many drops as possible. And yes, I know we always need as many drops as possible, but we get one shot, to make this shot or to not make it at all. So I'm using a wind ball on this one. But if you're not going to use a wind ball, all you need is a navigator. You're going to be playing this shot at minimum distance of your sniper. But if you're taking notes, you need to write down the path to making this a hole-in-one. All right, because I've got this one figured out. I haven't dropped it yet, but watch how close we're going to be on this. This is going to be awesome. So we're going to go right now step by step on what to do. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to apply 4.5 bars of backspin and then 1 bar of left side spin. That's very important to know. That's the first step. Don't find your landing spot first. Do this first. 4.5 back. I need to rewind here. I got ahead of myself. Okay, so that right there is with 4.5 back, 1 bar of left. We're aiming right into the hole. Now, here's what I found out during, my practice rounds. If I take that shot right there and I adjust it 10% elevation at minimum distance of my sniper, I am still missing this ball to the right, all right? And we're not even getting that strong of a wind push. And it's missing pretty well to the right, like 1.5, 2 green squares. But here's a little trick we're going to do. And if you don't ever do this, you'll find out this works really well in tournaments. So step 1 was 4.5 bars of back and 1 left side spin. That's where we're at right now. What you're going to do after that is you're going to keep it at 4.5 back. But in this example, I went 2.5 left. Now look at my ball guideline. My ball guideline is nowhere close to going into the hole. But watch what happens when we take the shot. The wind and the way this green slopes is pushing us back towards the pin. And we just burned the left-hand side there. So we're super close. So now you're asking me, okay, so what do we do next time? Well, next time, all I would do is, of course, I would keep the same 4.5 backspin because we know that's a good speed. That's never going to change no matter the wind on this shot. What will change is how much left spin we reapply after we find our landing spot. So if I ever get this wind again, instead of 2.5 bars of left spin, I'm going to go 2 bars of left spin, and that would have been a hole-in-one. So that's what we're going to do moving forward. But you can do that with that ball or a Navigator. You just got to figure out what side spin is going to work best for you. But that's how you dial it in. Okay, guys, this is a super, super simple hole. As a matter of fact, it's so simple, you don't even have to move your target here on the drive. You know, I'm using 3.5, 4.5 bars of top spin. I varied it from shot to shot. And then I'm using max right spin. And then I'm using like half of a bar of right curl with a Kingmaker. But this is a very, very easy drive. Use yourself a quarterback. I should have said that. Quarterback for the accuracy because we don't have to do anything silly on this drive. This is a very straightforward approach for a drive. But I'm going to show you something tricky here and something super, super dangerous that I would only suggest you try if you're behind in the tournament. If you've got a hole-in-one up to this point and maybe that albatross and you've hit your eagles like you're supposed to, don't try this rough bump. But I'm going to show you where the rough bump is at. This is a super, super simple birdie hole. Okay, but regardless, there is a rough bump here. All right. I will not be playing it unless I'm behind. If I don't drop my hole-in-ones, you know, if I do something stupid like I normally do and I hit too many great shots, I'm only going to go for this eagle right here if I have to. But if I have a really good score, I'm not screwing around with this shot because if you hit a great shot or you don't adjust your rings properly, two things can happen. Is one, you miss the rough and you hit the fairway and you fly up there onto this top portion way up here, all right? Or you underhit your ball and you end up in the sand. That's going to screw you. So here's how I play this hole in Tour 8. I go with a max backspin approach, a little bit of right spin, and then as far as a ring adjustment, I just adjust it whatever the wind is. So this wind is 6.1, so I move it 6.1 rings. I use a little bit of right curl, and I use the back of the green to ricochet me back towards the pin. So that's what I always do right here. But, you know, you can get that shot to drop. It's a hard eagle with the way that I just did it. But if you like to gamble, there is a rough bump there. So good luck with that one. And I hope you guys do well no matter how you go for it. Okay, this one's going to be a par 5. Most people will get a birdie on this hole. All right, I've already seen 2 opponents par it today because they're going to try to bomb the drive and just smack the piss out of the ball. Don't do that. Just do this. Use a quarterback again, okay? And get your big dog out. The big dog or your cat for the second shot is going to give you a huge, huge, huge advantage. But for the drive, 4 top, 3 right spin, 10% adjustment, easy, no problem. You don't need to do more top spin. You don't need to overpower your shot because you don't want to go into the rough. This right here is a great drive. It's an easy play. But shot number 2, I want you to just bomb the ball with a big dog. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to get past a tree line. There's a tree line here that we don't want to get stuck behind, which is all these trees right here. So what we want to do is go full top spin, a little bit of right side spin, and then adjust your rings at 0%. So we'll get caught back up here at the video. So full top spin, a little bit of right. Adjust your rings for 0%. Push back up to max. And then use whatever overpower you feel you can hit a perfect shot with. For me, I used half of a ball because I didn't get a shaky needle, and I felt really comfortable with that. This is a lot of distance. We don't need this much distance, okay? This is a really, really good shot and angle for our third shot towards pin. Now, unfortunately, I have not hit this eagle yet. So I keep missing to the left-hand side. So I've been messing around with my slider more than I normally do. But if you guys are using an app and you get into this range, I think a 68% slider will work. Because I took this shot right here with a 60% slider. And if you don't use a slider and you just use what I say, then, you know, apply 2 bars of backspin. And you see that I'm aiming towards the middle of the hole. But the way this green rolls is pushing you back towards the left. So if you're not using a slider on your app, then you're going to have to purposely offset this shot to the right. So you're going to have to aim to the right-hand side of the cup or the pin to get this one to fall. But you can see we barely missed it, and that was with using a 60% slider, but I'm going to go 68%, and I believe that number is going to work. Either way, guys, you know, thanks for watching the video. I hope you found this helpful. You know, please subscribe, and best of luck in your next round.